When you ride with inverse pedals, you need to pick a shoe that's suitable for studding. The pedal system requires studs to penetrate into the rubber surface of the pedal for grip. Now, not all shoes are suitable for studding. Some are better than others. Summer flat pedal riding shoes usually make good candidates for studding, but there are some cases where you might find a summer riding shoe that isn't a good candidate. In this Q&A, we're going to help you understand what characteristics make a shoe good for studding, and also what characteristics might make a shoe a poor candidate for studding, so that you can choose wisely. The inverse pedal system relies on a rubber-coated pedal and these carbide tip studs that you screw into your shoe or boot. The sharp carbide tip digs into the surface of the pedal to create grip. On a conventional pedal, you have your studs sticking up and your rubber sole pressing down. In this case, we've got the studs on the shoe pressing down into the pedal. These studs just screw into the sole of your shoe by hand, wherever you want to put them. Some shoes stud better than others. Luckily, most flat pedal riding shoes stud really well. But we're going to go over the characteristics that make a shoe good for studding and or bad for studding so you can make the right choice. Flat pedal riding shoes are really good for studding in most cases. There might be other shoes that are good as well, like some skate shoes might be good, but some might not. We've spent most of our time ensuring that our stud system is suitable for most flat pedal riding shoes. You need to make sure that the sole of your shoe is thick enough to accept the screw-in portion of the studs, and you need to be sure that the construction of the sole is suitable. There's a separate video that shows you how you can measure the thickness of your sole. It's a little tricky when you've got a brand new shoe and you're trying to measure the thickness of the sole down inside, but there are techniques that the video points out. In terms of the sole construction, what you need to avoid are shoes that have these hollow cavities within the sole of the shoe. We call this a waffled inner sole, and these open air pockets mean that the studs just don't hold properly. This kind of construction is quite typical on a lot of 510 shoes. We haven't found any other brands that use this design of inner sole construction. Here's an example of a shoe that's really good for studding. This is an RC. It looks pretty beat up and dirty because this one's been ridden in our testing for over 2 years. But you can see that it's got a solid construction sole with no air pockets, and it holds studs really well. The best way to identify whether your shoe has this hollow inner structure is to squeeze the sole. A waffled inner sole will cave in, and a solid inner sole is hard. On a shoe like this 510 that has a waffled inner sole, there'll be places where the sole will be hard and places where it caves in. That's the difference between whether you're pushing on one of the ribs or one of the gaps between the ribs. On a shoe like this RC that has a solid sole, you'll find that the resistance is consistent everywhere and none of the points cave in. You can choose any pattern of studs on the sole of your shoe. You definitely need a high density of studs on the ball of your foot where it's going to be riding on the pedal normally. But you may want to add studs closer to the toe and closer to the heel for a couple different reasons. You might not always place your foot on the pedal exactly where you want, so you still want some studs that are going to dig in and give you grip. Also, studs on the toe and heels can give you a lot of extra grip when you're walking on slippery surfaces. Now, we've found that more studs generally gives you more grip. So make sure that you have a high density of studs, at least 15 or 20, in the ball of your foot area where the pedal is going to be. The only flat pedal riding shoes we've found that are not good for studding are 510s. Now, we can't say that every single model of 510s has this waffled inner sole construction problem, but every 510 shoe that we've either cut open or tried to stud has been a problem. Every other brand of flat pedal riding shoe has studded well. This is a current Shimano. Fantastic shoe for studding. Every RC shoe that we've tried to stud has been great, and this Liet also turned out really well. Even some of the budget brands have studded really well. Winter boots generally stud really well. We've got a separate Q&A video that talks about the nuances of winter boot studding. Check it out.